Well, it's March 31st, and for the last few days I've been a little bit worried because the weather hasn't been really cooperating well. Ever since I was a little boy, I mean, I can't remember the time I didn't know this saying, you know, March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb, or just the opposite. And so March 1st came in. It was a beautiful day, and I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, at the end of March. And the reason why I'm aware of this is because my birthday was yesterday, March 30th. And so every year when my birthday it comes around, I'm really aware of the weather. And I have been since, you know, maybe I was 3 years old or something like that. And so yesterday, it was bright and sunny, and it was beautiful, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it was amazing. And I kept thinking, well, maybe this is, you know, global warming and everything. Everything changes. And I felt a little disappointment because of that, because, you know, for 65 years now, it's been consistent. That is the one thing I can count on. Well, sure enough, about 2 o'clock in the morning, well, actually about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we got a little bit of sprinkles, and I said to Barbara, I said, well, you know, it came in like a lamb, and, you know, it's going out like a kitty cat, you know, but the fact is about 10 o'clock last night, there was a lightning storm and thunder, and the rain just poured all night long, and today it's cold. You can kind of see a little breath in my air. Today is cold, and I'm a happy camper. Mostly because I know that the next day or two it's going to warm up, and then we're going to have summer. So that said, the next step in this whole process, and let me see if I can find my little washer. You know, we've cut the base, and the base is done, and we cut out that angle in the base. Now the same thing has to happen for this big washer. I have to kind of create an oblong washer because it sits on the shaft and holds the piece of wood in place. Let me kind of place that for you. And so the regular washer would sit like, you know, parallel with the piece, and so I have to kind of bring it down so that it sits at the same angle. So that was pretty easy to do. Oh, here's a stack of washers that I got on eBay. I think I, you know, paid 50 cents a piece for them or something like that. It was a good deal. And at some point or another, I'll probably have to pay retail for them, and I'll, you know, sing the blues at that point. But anyhow, so that was pretty easy piece. Once I drill the holes, then I set up a little jig that goes on this same armature, and then just basically cut the hole through there using the same setup. So that's going to happen here maybe today, maybe tomorrow. First I got to drill the 3 holes and then set up the jig, and we'll go from there. And I'll check back in with you as we go through the steps as usual. Okay, I figured I'll take a break right here and kind of fill you in on where we're going. Notice the washer, and hang on, let me go get this other piece. So this piece slides up and down the shaft of the bench pin. So and notice there's a washer, a big honking washer up on top. So that washer needs to have 3 holes in it so that we can set up the wooden platform so that the bench can can function. So in order to do that, of course, we got to drill 3 holes, but they have to be drilled in a fairly specific spot. And so what I've done is set up a little jig here, and we'll go ahead and take it apart because it'll kind of show you what's going on. And I'm doing 2 at a time, which is much better than I thought it was going to be. So each one of these big holes is really kind of a reservoir for chips. And so then I set the thing up, drop the washers in place, kind of square them up a little bit, put the retaining washer on top of that. The little Allen bolt. Let's make sure they're squared up. Tighten the Allen bolt, and we're ready to go. Turn on the power. Let's drill some holes. Now I'm going to put a little bit of oil on the drill bits just so it's got lubrication. And you can see just that little bit of smoke coming up, which means that it's doing its job. And you can't really see the DRO, digital readout for the mill, but there's one up above here. Actually, you know what? Why don't we go ahead and give you a shot of it? And that would be right there. And I've got this thing set at 12333, which is exactly where that hole is. Now I'm going to bring it back to 0 and then take it over to 12333 on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 3, and drill that hole. And we can see if we can get that in here too. Yeah. So that hole gets drilled at the same setting on the other side of the disc. And the digital readout has been just an amazing tool for the drill press and my lathe. At this point, I just don't know what I'd do without it. So bring it back to 0. And where is 0? Coming up close. 0. Okay. And then drag this back to 12333, and we can show that there. 1, 2, 3. 335 is good, and we drill that hole, and we pretty much have just drilled 2 of them in a row. That's pretty easy. Hey, Nick Collier here. Well, the next step in this little process is to cut this 1.5 inch interior diameter into little segments, and we're going to take it over to where a couple are cut. This one's cutting right now, so I just cut off a whole bunch of little 1 inch segments. And then the segments come into little pieces like this, and later on we're going to add the tabs to it and split it so that it can grip around. Let me get the bar for you. And we'll just set the camera down so that it can grip around the tube, and when put a bolt through here, and then when it gets squeezed, it holds in place, and that way it slides up and down. So that's pretty simple, and that kind of leaves us with step 62 in this little process. Because the saw cuts a nice sharp edge, this little leading edge gets a little bit too sharp, almost like a little razor blade. So one of the jobs is just to come in and clean up the edge, and usually I do that while another one is cutting. So then I, just kind of keep a nice smooth process. Okay, so we got 10 feet of tubing here for the bench pin, but it's kind of rusty and corroded. Not rusty, but just kind of corroded. They put a grease sealer on it, but it's a bit difficult to get off. So I use a little WD-40 or fish oil, and just squirt a little on there, and use a little Cratex, not Cratex, can't remember what it's called. Yeah, anyhow, just, you know what it looks like. It's the other side of a kitchen sponge. And just run across the tube until, and I'm just going to do part of it here so we don't use up a whole lot of video space, just to show you what it'll look like once we get it out. Just run across it a couple of times. Get a rag, nice greasy one, and come back and clean it off. And the tubing comes out into a nice polish. Let me turn the lathe on. Oh yeah, this is too long to fit into my lathe. So what I've done is I've put it in the lathe, in a sense, backwards, and I'm coming out the backside of the lathe to do the polishing. You can kind of see the polish now. It's got a nice clean sheen to it. It's very functional, and it gives me what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then we'll get back in. We'll get into the cutting part. Okay, so we're cutting the tube at 23 inches because we need an 11.5-inch piece. And the reason why 11.5-inch piece is because this tube's just about ready to pop, and I have to catch each piece because there's my 23-inch mark right there. I have to catch each piece because it's got a nice finish on it, and if it falls in amongst that metal, it's going to be all banged up, and I'll have to go back in and finish it again. So definitely don't want to do that. Drop it in on the mark. Drop the saw blade down a little bit off. Let me just adjust that just a tad. And here we go again. Okay, now that we got those cut, we back up our vise a little bit, and then loosen the clamp and drag this back to 30 degrees, and you can kind of see there's a little 30-degree mark right there. Flip. Tighten it up, and yeah, don't quite have this far enough back. Then we drop our piece in, and there's our 11.5-inch mark, and just kind of snug it down a bit because we're probably going to have to adjust it. Very seldom do I actually hit it right on the money, and again, that didn't happen this time either. So the 11.5-inch mark right there, tighten up on the vise, turn the saw on, and let her squeak away. Now this inside edge right here, or this outside edge right here, has got a little burr on it from the saw, so I've got to bring it in and just kind of kiss that edge to round off that burr, just so it'll fit, and you'll see later where it's going to fit. It's going to fit in that base. Yeah, that rounded it off nicely. Well, now let's do that 14 more times and see what we got. This is a fairly easy step here. Just put the tube in the lathe, bring the bit up to it. Notice how it's a bit off. That's only because I've got an old dull worn saw blade. If it was a new blade, it would be cutting a lot cleaner than that. But you know, a couple of quick passes and it squares it right up. Well, okay, a couple of more quick passes. There we go. That's good enough on that. Come in with to clean up the inside edge, and then a little file work.
and we're all set to go.